There it is. Hello. My storage space is getting so full, it takes time for it to kick in. It's weird, there's a lot of delays right now. And I want to say it's shifting energies and old things passing away and new things arising and just a lot going on. And I guess this directly correlates with what my neighbor and I were talking about. She's 70 years old and she has a neurological disorder. Well, she moved here around November or December. And we were talking the other night, and she was talking about how she can have a driver's license, but she doesn't feel like it's safe, and then she gets lost anyways. She forgets. And I told her, I said, it's not that you're forgetting, because she was talking about driving. I said, it's not that you're forgetting, you really don't get out enough and you don't know the area. You know, it's not like you grew up around here or you've been here. And considering you really don't leave the house very much, how would you know where everything is? And she was like, I didn't look at it like that. I'm really not forgetting, I just don't know where it's at. And honestly, it helped her feel better that she wasn't losing her mind, let's say. And I think we all forget, like when you're in your hometown, you know the back roads, you know the detours, you know everything about where you need to go, and you can get there in a heartbeat, you know. If the area floods, you know a way to get around it. But if you're visiting another place, you're like, oh my God, and you start freaking out. You don't really know where to go, what to do. You want to ask for help, and a lot of people aren't helpful. They're like, yeah, go that way, and then go that way, and then you're going to go that way, and you're like, oh my God. What? Never mind, I'll figure it out. And in this day and age, we have Google Maps, right? But when I was talking to her about not knowing, it made me go, It's like we all live in the same world, but different realities, different time periods, right? And I saw this old man walking one time down the road, and I'm talking very elderly. And everything on his street had been bought up and changed. Like there's a convenience store on the end, another little like dollar store or something up the way. It had all been commercialized. Well, he was the one person that refused to sell out. Kind of like the movie Up, right? So as he came out, he's looking, and it was almost like he time warped. No clue where he was, and I thought, I wonder how different the world is in his eyes, because if he hasn't come out of his home in 5 years, a decade, you know, family's taking care of him and bringing stuff, his reality is different than when he stepped into that home. And I think we all forget. We find comfort in areas that were the most comfortable for us. It's like I was listening, or I was scrolling through YouTube, and Queen Latifah pops up on my stuff, and I'm thinking, man, I ain't listened to her in a minute, and it was just another day. And that kind of triggered me to say, finally get this off your chest. You know, finally have this conversation, because I was nostalgic for the 90s. I am nostalgic for the 90s. I was stuck in the 90s for the longest time, but it's like a time period where my dad was stuck in the 70s, and we had to finally tell him at one point, Dad, the woven belt just ain't cool anymore. Like, step into the future. And it's weird, because when you do finally get someone to detach from the past and move into the future, their demeanor changes. Because we have to become more comfortable with the surroundings that we are currently in. Things change, right? We all know this. That is the only constant in the world, is change. That when you choose to say, okay, I'm not a teenager in the 90s anymore, and I am an adult now, and you're like, I don't want to grow up. None of us want to age. We all want the respect of an adult, right? We all want not even the responsibility, because adulting is tiring. We want the freedom that we had when people were doing for us, when people were helping us get by, when people were guiding us, and we weren't necessarily 100% responsible for our actions. I mean, you have to think about it. If you skip school so much, you weren't going to jail, but your parents might. That's something that we were raised, that they're responsible for us. And then it's like, as we get older, we kind of forget we're responsible for ourselves. That goes back to that being nostalgic and stuck in a time. And it's like we're all finally having to wake up and go, time has zoomed by. For me, it has. And it started with me having children. I got married at 20 years old, almost 21. And then I had my son at 23 and my daughter at 26. And as soon as they were born, you talk about birthday. And it was like, oh my God. I didn't even consider my age. I didn't consider how things were changing. I just adjusted to what they needed in their life. And I want to say that's why we go through empty nest syndrome. We live so long taking care of others. And it's funny because we start by being taken care of, and then we turn around and be the caretaker. And then we get to a point where we're like, what am I supposed to take care of? Don't forget about it. Yourself. We forget about that self-care, that time to heal, that intermission in life, right? That moment where we get to go, I'm actually still breathing. Oh my goodness, I can sit down if I want. I can read a book. I can talk on the phone without distractions. I can sew something if I want. I can go for a walk and have no responsibilities. I can eat as early as I want. I get to live my own life. I never thought that would be a reality. And it's funny because when that becomes a reality, most people don't know how to handle it. A lot of people are like, party. We get to a point where it's like, no more responsibilities. But I did that as a teenager. And it's funny because it's almost like trying to cycle back into my life. And I'm like, no, we have better things to do. We can focus on building generational wealth. We can focus on bettering ourselves. We can focus on healing. We can focus on growing. We can become hermits. We can do what entertains us. Don't forget that. You have the freedom to do what you want. You can stay inside while the world changes around you. Just don't be surprised when it changes when you step out. And like I said in the very beginning, my neighbor was thinking she's forgetful. No, you're just not educated on the matter. And we all can educate ourselves in ways to learn things that we weren't aware of. We have that time. We have that freedom. I can pretty much say confidently, most people go to work, they get home, they might sit down and watch TV, or they start making dinner, depending on when they get home. But regardless of how it goes, make dinner, sit down and watch TV, maybe do the dishes that night, or save them for the next day. I was raised in a household, don't leave dishes in the kitchen overnight. You're going to get critters, right? You're going to have little bugs in your house. You don't want that. So it was always do the steps, And then after the fact, you can sit and relax and prepare for the next day. But the thing is, most people aren't taking that time to go, what do I want to invest in that's going to benefit me? And I challenge you today, come up with something that you want to invest in that is going to better you. Either calm your mind, calm your nervous system, allow you to relax. And one thing my mom has found that she loves doing is the dot art. She keeps making them. I'm going to have a wall of nothing but dot art. But I love it because she is getting to relax after a very long day at work. And she's even getting me one now. Like, she had bought me one originally. I didn't have time to do it. I didn't make time to do it. Instead I was sitting outside with neighbors and trying to help them and comfort them and driving myself crazy. Not crazy, just lowering my energy because they have so much going on. They all have so much going on. And I've always been a person that's really kept to myself. But considering we share a space out there, we've become family. And my friend with the stage 4 cancer actually was rushed to the hospital 2 mornings ago before I went to work, and it was really hard. All I could do was pray all day and hold back the tears because I was worried about her. And she's supposed to be coming home today. So looking at that, there's situations in other people's lives that drain us. And my mom even said, you need to take a break. I know you want to help people. I know you don't like to see them struggle, but you can't save them all. You can't help them all. And of course me, I'm like, don't you see my cape? I have my cape. I can save the world. And I had to finally admit to myself, no, I can't. And truly the only person I'm here to save is me, right? I've used this example several times, but when you're on a plane, if it's going down and the oxygen masks come down, they tell you put yours on first, then help the person next to you, if you want. No, I'm kidding. You're supposed to help the person next to you. But it gets to a point where you have some people in the world like myself. They empathize. They don't want to see others hurting. They don't want to let people go down. And it's hard because sometimes we're meant to let others go down. You know, karma is very real in this world. So we have to remember that if bad things are happening to people that aren't the greatest, don't intervene in that, because guess what? You're going to step in to somebody else's whooping. I learned this as a kid. Don't ever take your sister's spankings. We all learned in our household, do not step up and take the blame for what someone else did, because, well, you know what? I'll let you take her punishment. I don't want to take anyone's punishment. I tried that as a child. I'm good, thank you. So we have to remember to often let things be. You know, we cannot put a pacifier in everybody's mouth. As much as I would love to heal the world and change the world, I've learned to step back. Go back to kind of evaluating the situation. And even when it comes to the neighbor across the way, I used to, don't treat her like that, don't do that. I mean, wear myself out. And now I just kind of sit back because I see the way that the dynamic of the relationship is. You know, we can misjudge people and believe that they need us to be their backbone. And maybe this is why a lot of people don't step in when it comes to abusive relationships, because a lot of times you think the one being abused is the abuser. I know I looked crazy when I was in it. I finally got the courage to fight back, and he was so calculated on what he did that nobody saw the crazy making before crazy blew up. You know, and it took a long time for people to start realizing, she's not really doing that. She's actually fed up and had enough. But when it comes down to that, when someone begins to find their strength like that, let them be the warrior. And I'm not saying sit around and watch people get their ass beat. By no means. Because sometimes you can save a life by picking up the phone and making a call. But either way it goes, we have to remember to focus on ourselves. We have to remember to educate ourselves. And it's funny because, like I said earlier, it's like we live in the same world but different realities. It was even down to, I was helping my daughter with her schoolwork, and she goes, well, what if I did it this way? And I was like, isn't that new age math? And she's like, I don't know if it's new age. I don't know what it's called. And I was like, well, it's a new way. And my friend was out there too. And I was like, it's weird because they've come up with this simpler way of math, but this change between generations has left a gap to where now the parent looks stupid and cannot help the child. That creates a sense of distrust. Well, in this 3D matrix world that we live in, why would you want the next generation to trust the past generation that can remind them of how they need to educate themselves? Because there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. My daughter tells me about it all the time. And I've tried to impress. Do not believe everything you see or read or hear. It's we have a way with technology that can alter everything that we're viewing. And then it can spread around like wildfire, and the next thing you know, everyone's spouting off falsities, and you're like, when did that change? You start losing trust. Why would that be like that? Just like when you go into a public restroom where they sell beauty products and any kind of product to help you alter the way you look. If you notice, the lighting is different, and you probably look older and can see every blemish, everything about yourself. You're like, oh God, do I really look? Now I gotta go spend $1,000 over here. Hold on, I really need to work on my appearance. But when you're at home, it's not the same. And that's some propaganda for monetary gain, your loss. But I'm starting to dive a little too deep, so on that note, hopefully there was some food for thought. Just remember, the world's always changing. You're not forgetting anything. It's just switching up what you know. So, sending you peace, love, and light.